He was a billionaire surrounded by power, fame, and fortune, but completely empty inside. Until he met a struggling orphan girl with nothing but a piece of chalk and a secret talent that would change his life forever. What she drew on the sidewalk stopped him in his tracks, and led to a transformation no one saw coming. Stay with me, because this story will shake your soul and show you what true wealth really means. Before we begin this powerful story, make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss an episode filled with meaning and emotion. Like and share the channel with others, because this is more than just storytelling. Every narrative we share carries a deep moral lesson designed to inspire, uplift, and transform. She was an orphan with nothing, until her secret talent caught a billionaire's eye. I was born into noise, the kind that deafens dreams. My father ran a body shop in Queens. And my mother, she was a ghost long before she died. Money never stayed. Food came in tins. Sleep came with shouting matches leaking through cracked bedroom walls. By 16, I had a mop in one hand and a dream in the other. I cleaned office floors by night, coded like a madman by day. I taught myself from discarded books and forgotten forums. People laughed. They always do when you build castles from trash. At 23, I launched a tech app from my one-room apartment. It flopped. So did the next 4. Investors turned cold. Friends disappeared. I ate from gas station counters. Betrayal tasted like borrowed money and broken promises. I was 30 when I slept on a bench outside the New York Public Library. Rain dripped down my coat. But inside me, there was fire. I rose. Again. And again. Until one day, I did not fall. At 32, I built CloudKey, a cybersecurity firm no one believed in. By 35, I had become what they called a billionaire tech genius. But no one talks about the silence at the top. The kind that echoes louder than the poverty I left behind. Success is loud. But loneliness? It is deafening. And that is when I saw her. She was standing outside a bakery I had just acquired. Her coat was stitched. Her hands red from the cold. But her eyes, they held galaxies. I watched her sketch. Just chalk and pavement. But what she drew, it was emotion carved in color. I asked her name. She flinched like I had asked for her past. Lena, she whispered. She was an orphan. Worked odd jobs. Lived in the back of a closed-down flower shop. No family. No safety net. But her art, it pulsed with life. I hired her. Not out of charity. Out of hunger. My soul was starved for realness. And she painted pain like it was a language. In boardrooms, I was king. In Lena's eyes, I was human. She taught me how to feel again. When my board accused her of manipulation. When tabloids painted her as a gold digger. I stayed silent. A coward cloaked in luxury. She left. Quietly. Without anger. Only dignity. For the first time in my empire, I felt poor. Truly, irreversibly poor. So I searched. Not with satellites. Not with money. But with memory. I went to the places she once mentioned softly. A burned orphanage. An old train station. A riverside bench she called home. And there, I saw her again. She was painting the wall of a children's center. Children, all orphans, giggling as she handed them brushes. A mural blooming with color, sorrow, and hope. She turned. And her eyes. They still held galaxies. I stood there. Not as a billionaire. Not as a man with tailored suits and scheduled flights. But as a soul stripped bare. She saw me. Really saw me. The way no one ever had. Not even myself. Lena smiled. Softly, like the world had not crushed her. Like forgiveness was still possible. I walked toward her slowly. As if afraid the moment would vanish. The children's laughter swirled around us. Innocent, chaotic, healing. Why are you here? She asked. No bitterness. Just calm curiosity. I remembered who I was. When I was with you, I said. Her eyes did not blink. She waited. As if silence would tell her more than my words ever could. I was wrong, I added. I let them turn love into scandal. I let fear speak louder than truth. But I never stopped seeing you in everything I built. A small boy tugged at her sleeve. Miss Lena, can I paint the stars now? She knelt beside him. Yes, sweetheart. But make them bright. Brighter than the night ever dares to be. She stood again. Looked at me. Then nodded toward the wall. Pick up a brush. I laughed. Not the hollow, polite chuckle from interviews or black tie galas. But something raw. Something I had buried long ago. I rolled up my sleeves. Took the brush. Dipped it in yellow. Painted a single line of sunlight across the edge of a storm cloud. It felt like breathing for the first time in years. You know, she said, these children do not care who you are. They care how you make them feel. Same goes for love. I looked at her then. Not with the hunger of possession, but with the reverence of redemption. What if I start again? I asked. Not from scratch, but from truth. She wiped her hands on her apron. There were paint stains on her fingers. On her cheeks. Like war paint from a battle only she had survived. Then start right here, she said. With them. With me. But this time, leave your empire at the door. I nodded. For the first time. Not as a man who conquered the world, but as one who was finally ready to belong to it. A bell rang inside the center. Dinner time. Children scattered, laughing, smearing colors on one another, leaving trails of joy behind them. She turned to go in, then paused. By the way, she smiled, your yellow was too bright. But it fits now. I looked at the wall. Sunlight. Storm. Children's dreams. And for the first time in my life, I did not see an asset. I saw art. The scent of tomato soup drifted from inside the center. Warm, simple, grounding. I stood there a moment longer, watching the way Lena disappeared behind those worn wooden doors. Surrounded by laughter. Not applause. My fingers still held the brush. Paint crusted at the edges. It reminded me of how far I had come. And how far I had drifted. Inside those walls was the kind of wealth no balance sheet could measure. I followed her in. The room was small. Lit by soft yellow bulbs and cracked windows. Tables mismatched. Chairs squeaking under the weight of stories untold. Children sat in clusters. Slurping soup. Passing bread. Giggling between bites. Lena was ladling more into a boy's chipped bowl. He looked up at her like she had strung the stars across the sky. And maybe she had. I moved quietly. Sat on the edge of a bench. A girl beside me with missing teeth asked, "Are you her husband?" The question struck harder than I expected. "No," I answered. "But I think I want to be the kind of man she could love." She blinked. Then shrugged. And went back to dipping her bread. Lena joined me a moment later. She handed me a bowl. No silver spoon, no garnish, just kindness. "You look strange holding something that does not cost $1,000, she teased. I smiled. I feel strange not being asked for a meeting. We sat in silence. The kind of silence that holds weight, but also comfort. "Why this place?" I asked. She glanced around. This was the first building I ever broke into. I looked at her, stunned. She laughed. It was abandoned then. I was 13. It was raining. No one chased me out. So it became home. A lump rose in my throat. She continued. When I made enough money selling sketches at the subway, I bought it for $50,000. Rebuilt it with help. Turned it into something that would never turn a child away again. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the pain tucked inside each word. "You did all this alone?" I asked. She shook her head. "No one does anything truly alone. But yes, there were nights I wished someone would believe in me. Then I realized I had to be that someone for myself." The children began singing at a table nearby. Off-key and pure. I leaned closer. "I want to help you. Not with money. With presence.
With hands. With time. Teach me how. She looked at me, long and hard,
as if searching for the boy I had once been. The one who coded in hunger and cleaned floors in silence.
You can start tomorrow, she said.
There is a leak in the roof. And we need to repaint the hallway.
But more than that,
these kids need someone who shows up.
And stays. I nodded, not as a promise, but as a vow. That night,
I slept on a cot in the corner of the center.
No silk sheets.
No skyline view.
Just the hum of a heater.
And the soft breathing of children, who had seen too much,
but still dreamed.
I watched the moonlight spill across the mural outside, the one we had painted together, and I whispered to the dark, I think this is what real wealth feels like. The morning came slowly. Soft light filtered through tattered curtains, casting golden stripes across the concrete floor. I woke to the sound of children stirring, bare feet padding against the cold, tiny voices murmuring about breakfast and crayons and dreams. For the first time in years, I had slept without checking my phone. No urgent emails. No markets to chase. Just the quiet knowing. I was exactly where I was meant to be. I stepped out of the cot, stretched, and felt something unfamiliar settle in my chest. Peace. Lena was already up, kneeling beside a cupboard, pulling out paper towels and boxes of cereal. Her hair was tied messily, shirt stained with a splash of green paint. But to me, she looked like purpose in human form. You snore, she said without turning. I chuckled. So I have been told. I walked over, knelt beside her. Show me the roof leak. Let me earn my keep. She paused, then handed me a rusty flashlight and a crooked smile. Come on, billionaire. Let us see what you are made of. We climbed up the back stairs, past faded murals, past a wall where height marks tracked the children's growth. Up top, the city stretched around us, loud, indifferent, alive. But this rooftop, this broken patch of tar and dreams, felt like our own small universe. There, she pointed, a dark patch of rot, soggy and soft under our feet. I knelt down, touched it. Water had made a home where safety should have lived. I will fix it, I said. She looked at me, not with awe, not with hope, but with the quiet strength of someone who had learned not to expect rescue. You do not have to, she said gently. I already did all of this before you came. I know, I replied. But you should not have to do it alone anymore. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she sat beside me, legs dangling over the edge of the roof. We watched the sun crawl over the skyline. I used to sit up here when I was a kid, she said. Pretend I was painting the clouds. Every one I painted was a wish I was too afraid to say out loud. What did you wish for? I asked. She glanced at me, smiling softly. A place where no one left, where people stayed, even when it was hard. I swallowed hard, because for all the homes I had built, for all the towers that bore my name, none had ever been built with the promise of staying. Lena, I said, my voice low, let me stay. She did not answer. Not yet. Instead, she reached for a scrap of paper, pulled a stub of charcoal from her back pocket, and began sketching me, right there, on a rooftop above the world, where I had finally come home. She sketched with quiet intensity, her fingers smudging shadows, her eyes darting between the page and my face. It felt strange, to be seen like this, not as a figurehead or a brand, but as a man sitting still, bare, unguarded. The wind picked up. It tugged at her loose hair, whipped at the edges of the paper, but her hands stayed steady. I watched her draw, watched her lips pressed together in focus, and I realized, this was not just a sketch. It was her way of remembering, of trusting. You always draw when words fail you, I murmured. She stopped, lifted her gaze slowly. I draw when I want to remember someone as they truly are, before the world teaches them how to hide again. That hit deeper than I expected. I looked away, eyes scanning the skyline. Buildings I once thought I owned,
now distant, cold.
Do you think people like me can truly change?
I asked. She paused,
then gently blew charcoal dust from the page.
Yes, she said.
But only if they are willing to be broken first.
I nodded.
Because I knew now. I had been broken long before I ever became rich. I had just learned how to hide the cracks behind wealth. She handed me the sketch.
I looked at it. My face. But softer.
Not tired. Not angry.
Not hollow. Just real. You made me look kind, I whispered.
I did not make you anything, she replied. I just drew what was already there. A silence settled over us, thick with unspoken truths.
Then, from below, a child's voice shouted, Miss Lena.
The paint water spilled again.
She stood up,
brushing dust from her jeans. I should go. I grabbed her hand.
Not forcefully.
Just needing to feel something stay.
She looked down. Waited.
I will be here tomorrow, I said. And the next day.
And the next.
If you let me. Her fingers curled slightly around mine.
Not in promise, but in acceptance. We will see, she said softly.
But if you show up,
really show up,
not just for me,
but for them, then maybe. She turned,
headed for the stairwell. I sat on that rooftop for a long time after,
holding the sketch, holding her words.
Below me was the world I built.
Above me,
the sky she dreamed of painting.
And somewhere in between,
I had finally found the place
where I could become whole.
I stayed on the roof until the sun dipped low, turning the city into gold and fire. The sketch trembled in my hands,
not from the wind,
but from the weight of what it meant. I slipped it into my coat pocket, like a promise folded small. Downstairs, the center hummed with the sounds of evening.
Plates clinking,
children laughing, water running in the sinks. I walked through the narrow hallway, tracing my fingers across peeling paint, feeling the pulse of the place.
In a corner room,
a few older kids sat at a battered table, doing homework under a flickering lamp. One of them looked up. You are the man from the papers, right?
I hesitated.
I used to be.
He squinted.
Why are you here?
I pulled out a chair.
To learn how to stay. The boy frowned like he was testing my words for cracks. Then he slid a math book across to me. Can you help me with this? I smiled,
took the pencil,
and began working through the problem with him. Numbers I had once used to build empires now became bridges between us.
From the kitchen,
Lena's voice drifted in, soft, guiding, calling the children one by one for dinner. I glanced at the doorway, caught a glimpse of her wiping her hands on a towel, her profile lit by the weak kitchen light. She was not a saint. She was not a savior. She was a woman who had built a sanctuary, out of nothing but scars and willpower.
And somehow,
she had built a door wide enough for me to walk through. I returned the pencil to the boy.
You did great, I said.
His eyes flickered with a small, shy pride. As he left for dinner,
I stayed seated,
listening to the murmur of voices, the clatter of plates, the heartbeat of a life I had never lived.
For the first time,
I felt something inside me shift.
Not a deal closing, not a metric climbing, something quieter, more permanent.
It felt like the beginning of belonging.
Weeks turned into months.
I never missed a day.
Not one. The roof was fixed, the hallway repainted. But more than walls and wires, I rebuilt something I never thought I had lost. Myself.
Lena never asked for grand gestures. She only asked for presence.
And presence I gave. I stopped chasing time.
And started planting roots. I taught coding classes to the older kids. Shared my failures.
Not my net worth. They listened.
Not because I was a billionaire, but because I was finally honest. One evening, under the same rooftop where she once sketched me, I found her standing alone, watching the sky. I want to give this place more, I said. Build it bigger.
Fund art programs. Scholarships.
Maybe even open another center across the city.
She turned to me, eyes steady.
Only if the heart stays the same. We are not rescuing children. We are raising them to rescue themselves.
I nodded, because she was right. She always was. That night,
as we locked the doors together,
I took her hand.
Lena, I said softly, I came to you lost in a world I thought I had conquered.
But you
taught me what it means to build something real.
Not in steel, but in souls. She smiled.
Not the smile she gave the world, but the one she saved for quiet, sacred moments. And in that moment, I knew. The empire I was building now was not made of glass towers or glowing screens.
It was built on trust, on love, on healing.
Moral of the story. Sometimes, we spend our whole lives chasing success, only to discover that real wealth is not in what we build,
but in who we become.
When we learn to love,
to serve, and to stay,
true transformation begins. When we stop measuring our value by what we have, and start living by what we give. Because the greatest empire is a heart that knows how to stay open, even after it has been broken. And the richest man is the one who chooses to rebuild the world. One life, one child, one act of love at a time. Thank you for listening to this heartfelt story. If it moved you, share it, comment below, and remember, you are never alone.